Hello everyone, and welcome back to Eternal Crusade. I don't think I've actually covered this game on my channel before, but I wanted to do a kind of quick kind of review slash pros cons slash kind of just first impressions of the release build so far. Now, I've been kind of following along this game for a fairly long time now. I haven't been overly invested in trying to get involved in all the forums and stuff, but I have been following along with the release builds they've put out for the beta and stuff like that. And I'm quite happy with the release build they've put out. It seems like it's playable, although admittedly there is a lot of things which I feel like they've missed out on, and I feel like a lot of it is a kind of compromise from their original plans for the game. Which is probably not a great thing, but there are some elements in it which do allow it to be quite an enjoyable experience for the most part. Now, you get a choice between 4 factions so far. So we've got the Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, Orcs, and the Eldar. And pretty much I've found the only 2 worth playing is the Space Marines and Chaos Space Marines. And probably the Eldar, actually, but that's mainly for the kind of... They're just utter BS for the most part. Yeah, and Orcs I have not seen. I haven't tried playing them because, honestly, they just feel like they're kind of put in as an afterthought for an older idea, which just doesn't really apply anymore. But, yeah, that's... I should probably try them at some point, but from the whole 10 or so hours I put in so far, I have not had a single game against them, so I have to assume there's not many people playing them in the first place. That or I've been really unlucky, which just seems kind of weird for that amount of time. Yeah, so in terms of balance, I think... Because the original plan they had for this game was it'd be kind of like an open world MMO, like kind of PlanetSide. Well, not necessarily, well... in that you could fight for control of regions and kind of fight to control this world, pretty much. And in a sense, they've kind of achieved some of that, but they've had to compromise in a lot of other ways. Now, in the original plans for the MMO, they had it so that free-to-play players would be able to hop in as, say, orcs. And so there'd be a lot more orcs in the game than there would be other factions. And so that would kind of compensate for the kind of slight power differences between the factions. Now, since then, they've kind of gone back to a more traditional one-on-one kind of thing, so they've kind of balanced every player accordingly, which means that it's really unbalanced for what it is, which is kind of annoying on the whole. So the main battles I've enjoyed doing are Space Marine on Chaos Space Marine, because they're very balanced. Well, for the most part, they're pretty balanced fights. Chaos have a few more sorceress abilities and stuff, and then you've got Space Marines, which, I mean, that I suppose in many ways they're kind of lacking in terms of Chaos Space Marines, because they're pretty much exactly the same, apart from they lack the kind of magic on the Apothecary and stuff. But at the same time, the Apothecary does have ranged weapons, so that can be seen as a benefit in both ways. Although, admittedly, Space Marine also has a shield on their melee class, which makes them pretty damn hard to get rid of. So yeah, they're more or less equal in terms of power. Then you get to the Eldar, which, at this point in time, bear in mind it's quite early on in the release and they might change it, although again I feel like this should have been done before now. They just seem far too powerful. I managed to beat them earlier on. I don't know if that's just because I'm playing badly or something or other, but it's just... It almost seems unrealistically so, and I think this is one of the problems with the balance they've done so far, is that I was fighting the same Eldar Witch? What is it? I can't even see her or something or other. It was one of the kind of magic healer classes they have. And bear in mind, Eldar in the lore are pretty much on par, well, slightly worse than Space Marines of anything in melee combat and stuff like that, and especially in toughness as well, because they're quite small framed. I mean, there's only so much kind of power you're going to have behind that. But they will consistently beat you in combat, again and again and again and again. And I don't know if this is to do with me just being bad at fighting in combat, because there are some slight mechanics in it, although admittedly it's just 2 buttons, and I don't know if there's any way you can really counter a lot of stuff like that. But from what I've seen so far, especially with the latency in this current version, then they're pretty impossible to beat. And I think I went up against this one person 4 or 5 times in a row without doing any damage on the whole. So, I don't know. I think Eldar at this current standpoint are just a bit too strong for what they are. I can understand them being quick. I can understand their weapons being kind of a different mechanic and stuff like that. And they have a lot more classes than the Space Marines, but they're also a lot more powerful in areas which I feel like they shouldn't be quite as strong. Range weapons as well, they tend to one-hit you a lot with most of their stuff, which can be quite annoying, because no one likes something when it's one hit. Although saying that, that's what I'm implying with the Space Marines. So, I guess it's a bit of both ways, but still, it's a bit of a weird one, and I'm not sure they're where they should be. Orcs, I think, are completely lacking in this current build. And one of my main reasons for that is you've literally got Shooter, and then you've got Looter, Stormboy, Slugger, and Painboy. Now, they're all pretty much standard classes in the Orc kind of world, but the way that Orcs stand out is by having either numbers, which they can't have, or like kind of mechs, or at least kind of some kind of knob or someone or other to just kind of like add a bit more power to the force, because at the moment they're all kind of quite standard. Yeah, so I feel like that's where Orcs are kind of lacking at the moment. Although maybe that's just me, I don't know. Yeah. Oh well. What else is there to say? Well, there's also one good thing I will say about this version is they have done a really good job at doing customization options. Now, there's not a huge amount of stuff. I have to wonder why this backpack costs 8,500, but that's quite a lot in comparison to pretty much everything else. I'm guessing maybe it's a kind of rare thing. I'm not sure. But either way, yeah, they've done a really good job for customization. You can see here the amount of options. Now, this is all available for their kind of in-game currency, well, the paid currency in-game, which I don't know. I got a lot free because I pre-ordered it, which I don't know if it's actually free on Steam at the moment, but if so, then it's fair enough they include that, but I don't know. It seems a bit much. Saying that once you get the kind of equipment you want for one race, and it's generally fine, so it's not too much of a price for that. But they have done a really good job for getting out. Like, you can see my Night Lord here, and this is per chapter as well for the Space Marines. So if I was a different chapter, I'd have different like options. Like with the Night Lords, I have the kind of like skull, winged head, and the kind of armor plates, and there is some like chest plates as well. And that's really cool. It's a nice feature to have, and it's quite cool seeing the variety of kind of people out there with different stuff. Although, again, going back to the Eldar, they seem to completely lack on all this, which I can kind of understand because you don't really see many Eldar with anything in the actual game that's slightly different. But from what I've seen so far, there's like no options for any of them, unless I'm just like getting completely wrong class. So what would be the most? I guess Dire Avenger would probably be the. This would probably be the one with the most customization. Oh, there is some then. Yeah, okay. So it's only on some of their classes that you can, but Dire Avenger is literally the only one I've seen so far with anything. And they're also really expensive as well, which is kind of weird. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll discard that anyway. So yeah, what else is on the loadouts? Honestly, I think the loadout system is pretty cool. You've got your primary weapon, your armor, your sidearm. That's the main kind of things. And you've got a consumable, so you can heal or have a grenade. Actually, no, not a grenade, like ammo pack. And then you've got grenades, standard, which is capturing stuff. And then you've got your other war gear, which is like marks and trinkets and stuff like that. And then you can also get these other little bits and bobs down here, which is for buffing the weapon. And also you get some down here for buffing the gun as well. And I mean, it's pretty cool. I like the loadouts. And you can have a maximum of 5 for your actual battle, and then 1 veteran loadout, which I think you can unlock during the progression tree, which I'll get to later, because that's another little thing that annoys me somewhat, but not a whole amount, but yeah. Yeah, so there's a nice selection, and you can of course switch between the classes. Now there's a different amount of classes for each race. Now I think Eldar have 9, if I'm not mistaken. Well, either way, they have quite a few, and this is the oh, it's a Warlock. All right. So the Warlock's the one with the melee weapon that just does so much. And you can see up here, 200 health, 100 armor, 80 toughness. Let's actually check the Space Marine on that one, because I'm not certain. Let's check loadout. 210. Okay, so you got a little bit more with the Space Marine, but not a great deal. And I think that's probably because I've got these trinkets on here. Yeah. So that's a pretty good thing. Now when it comes to the advancements, now this is something you have unanimous between. Well, it varies depending on what race you are on, but it's pretty kind of normal across the whole. And this is kind of one of the things that I'm annoyed about on the whole, because you can upgrade. A lot of these are quite sensible. You get unlocked trinkets. You can unlock it so your weapons give you less points towards your loadout total, or loadout points, I think. I'm not sure what the points are referred to exactly, but either way, these kind of like, all kind of like, you can get frag grenades, crack grenades, melter bombs further down, and they all cost like different amounts. Now, you unlock these points all the way through like any game, so it's pretty easy to build them up and work towards something you want. But the trouble I find with these is that a lot of them are just completely insignificant. I mean, if you go for the max armor you can find on this loadout, armor regen plus 0.31 seconds, and it's just kind of, it's all based around health and toughness and like regen on stamina and armor. And there's not really anything that kind of improves the class or allows you to specialize in a certain area. You can make yourself tougher, which is good for the most part, but there's nothing that can really like modify your speed. I mean, you can get a increase in speed with the Mark of Slanesh, which is 0.33 run speed multiplier. Whatever that means exactly, I do not know, but it's not exactly a noticeable change in the amount of run speed you're going to get. And there's nothing that really modifies your kind of your weapon speed when you're attacking, or your melee style, or it's something I feel like this is lacking in that they went for a very generic response with this, and I think this is something that someone like TB would probably mention as well if he covers the scale. I don't know, but it just seems somewhat lacking in that respect. But there are some other cool stuff on here, like the Sigil on Nurgle, which is, well, I mean, like sigils in general, because they apply to all your allies around you, so it can be quite a good thing to have as like a leader or as a squad. And squad play is quite a big thing in the game, which is good, because it's a team-based game. But I still feel like in some areas it could be quite greatly improved. Advancements is one where I kind of wish I see something a bit more interesting, because most of the stuff on there is quite standard, which is a bit of a shame. What else is there? The community in the game is also really quite good. Now, you have guilds, which is good. It's a nice way of bringing people together, although admittedly in game there is very little. Like, you can see here I'm in the Sons of Lorgar, which is just a random one I looked up and joined because they seem pretty competent in game, which I guess is the main reason you're going to want one. But the trouble is, you don't really have any way of interacting with them outside just randomly inviting them in game or having something externally. Which is fine for the most part, as most guilds generally have a TeamSpeak or Discord server or something or other where they can actually communicate, or website. But if you're just trying to run one from the actual game, which makes things a lot simpler on the whole, there is absolutely no way of actually communicating with anyone. And that's another kind of issue I have with the game at the moment, is that the ward parties as well. Now, you can create a public or a private war party. I'll click quick join and I'll probably just stick me in my own one. Oh no, it actually stuck me with someone. Alright, well, there you go. Yeah, that's the first time it's actually stuck me with someone, although admittedly it's only one person. So you can create a war party. This is pretty much a way of creating a party so you can invite friends, guildmates, whatever. And it's kind of annoying in a way because it's quite poorly implemented in that you can invite friends that are online, which is fine, that's good enough, but once you leave a game, like say you wanted to change a loadout or something rather than need a bit more time, you have to re-invite everyone to your party again. And you can't opt out of just joining another game. As the leader, you've got to kind of restart the whole thing, which is a big pain in the ass. And I can imagine it can be even more so when you're in a group of like 30-odd people, when you're in a game you don't really want to go against, say like Eldar, which can be quite annoying. So yeah, that's another little kind of... I mean, if anything, you kind of want a system where you can play with friends quite easily, and it just means it's a bit more of a pain in the ass to do so, which is never really a good thing on the whole. Yeah, so you've also got the store here, which is pretty standard, I think, across the whole. Eldar really don't have much they can unlock today. This is all just customized items, so their weapons are pretty much all given to them straight away. Which is a bit meh, but yeah. And yeah, you can see all of these ones, which are the kind of like default helmets. And I think this is true. So when it comes to customization, Space Marine, Chaos Space Marine, they're amazing. Orcs are pretty damn good as well. They have quite a lot of stuff. You get to Eldar, it starts getting quite threadbare in terms of what you can actually get. I mean, some of these are literally just color changes on the weapons themselves, and yeah. That's kind of when you know they're kind of running out of ideas for it. I mean, Eldar I can kind of understand because they kind of got the least kind of lore customizable weapons because they're all pretty much the same across the board. You also have things like these requisition chests. Now, I can't actually see them for Orcs or anyone else. I'm presuming they have them, but these pretty much allow you to unlock items for that class. Like, well, I've got 13,000, let's buy one. So you buy this, and this is probably going to give me a really shitty item that I already have for one of the default ones. Sulfuric acid etching. Increased damage for combat knives. That's not a bad thing really, I suppose. So then you can go to your loadout, find something with it right here. And then we can go here. And then edit, and then we can add that to it. Although admittedly that takes me over the limit, so I can't really add that to this class. But that's something you can do to increase damage with your combat knife. Admittedly, you're not really going to be using your combat knife a whole lot, and if you have to resort to it in the first place, you're probably not in a great position. So, I mean, they're kind of the modifiers that you can add through the game, which, yeah, it's a nice little thing to be able to customize something like that, although ultimately that one would be pretty insignificant. So, I haven't actually managed to unlock one of the bigger ones yet, although I could actually get one of the second one, see if that actually improves it, because all the ones I got from these ones so far seem to be for the first tier of weapons. Let's just get one of these. Ooh, it's a master-crafted plasma gun! Yeah, I wonder if that's actually any better than the regular plasma gun. Let's have a look, shall we? So that's actually something I don't have, so that's a good thing to unlock. Now let's go here to edit. Master-crafted plasma gun. See, it's actually... Oh, look, here we go. So this one has less recoil. And that appears to be it. There's no more damage, nothing like that. It's just less recoil. Okay, that's interesting. But ultimately, I don't know if that's really going to be worth it on the whole. It doesn't seem like a great deal of difference. And that's 100 points as well, which you could get like 2 upgrades or something rather for it. So, I don't know. That might be a good thing. I might not have been able to unlock that beforehand anyway, so it might have been an actual quite a good rare unlock. Yeah. So that's kind of my issues with it. I'll take you into a battle now just to show you some of the combat stuff, and I can kind of give you an explanation on the maps. And I'll be back in a second. Okay, so here you can see us playing in-game as Chaos Space Marines. I am currently against Space Marines, which is, for the most part, the only faction you really want to play against is Chaos Space Marines, because Eldar are a pain in the ass to deal with. And honestly, it makes it so it's just not much fun. And I think that's one of the things that Space Marines in general in this game kind of suffer with, is that because everything's balanced to the same standards, you don't really get that same Space Marine, I'm quite powerful kind of... Even, like, Space Marine itself was kind of, like, on par with this in terms of Space Marine on Space Marine gameplay. Because you didn't really have any of the kind of Orcs or anything... Well, you could play against the Orcs, you could play in the Swarm mode. And that is another point, this game actually does have a Swarm mode, although it's just the kind of same level against a bunch of Tyranids that come out. Now, originally in the first game, it was supposed to be quite an open world, and the Tyranids would kind of drop down different points, start capturing them behind you, and you would have to have this PvE element against the Tyranids. Which I reckon would have been a really good kind of concept, but because they haven't done that method, then it means that you kind of got this kind of just small little PvE game mode inside the game itself. Which I suppose is okay for the time being. I'm just hoping they kind of expand upon it in the future, and hopefully they add back in the other method of gameplay as well, where you've got the large open world kind of points to capture and stuff. Let's try and get this guy up here. Oh no, he's jumped off. And he's done. Yeah, so I kind of hope they add that in the future. I'm not too certain that they will, but you never know. Alright, let's just expunge that. Now, I've got a plasma cannon, which, among many other weapons, is a one-shot kill. Oh, there we go. As you just saw there. And I don't know if that's a great thing, and here I am using an ammo pack just to restock, because I use through ammo like a mother trucker. Oh, got another one. Alright, that's good. And yeah, I could keep on rambling here. And I probably will, because... No, another one. It's quite enjoyable. This is, I mean, it's quite fun just having these kind of like big, powerful weapons which do a lot of damage. And I think, was that a... Yes, that was. He fucked up. And so, yeah, capturing these points is quite fun. And that's more or less like how all of it goes with this game mode. I mean, you've just got to capture points and keep pushing. Right, let's just get over here. Oh, I don't know what that was. But there are some other annoying elements, like with vehicles in this game, for instance. There's a lot of invisible walls that really can mess up your gameplay experience. And I kind of wish they hadn't done this to that extent, because it does make it rather infuriating. Oh, I shouldn't have hopped out there. Does he drop that? Ooh. Oh, the grenade didn't kill him. Oh, that's a shame. Right, so he's going to go for C, so I want to spawn at C and try and defend that one, because we don't really want them capturing the points behind us. Okay, so let's try and get up here before he arrives, because he is going to be on his way. Don't know where from, though. That's the trouble. Yeah, so there's a lot of invisible walls that can interfere, and it seems like there's a lot of bugs and stuff which are very indicative of a kind of beta experience. And I know this is probably something that'll just end up cleaning up in time, but there are some things like the invisible with tanks, and just that... Oh, fuck you. No, no. Yay! Well, that's one way of dealing with them, I suppose. So as you can see with Space Marines, it's quite a balanced kind of thing of kind of a back and forth between them. And trying to just use plasma cannons to blow each other up in one. Okay, so that more or less concludes what I have to say about it. Would I say it's good, worth getting?
There's not really
absolutely. It's really quite a fun experience. Would I say there's a lot they can improve on it?
Okay, right,
definitely.
let's move on to the next bit anyway.
If they could sort out the balances between the different kind of factions on here, that would make the game a lot better. Like if people could actually play orcs, for instance. And I feel like if they were going to make it so they could play orcs, they either need to bring in like more like vehicles or customization for the classes, so you could have things like knobs or stuff that makes it kind of a bit more enjoyable in that respect. Or they just need to allow it so that they can have a lot more players in it, because even if they're easy to kill, if you have the amount of players making it more fun, then I think it improves it in more ways than one, because you have the kind of like the backup and all that kind of stuff. You have the kind of war mentality of the orcs, where you can kind of just like charge forward in a big group and like swarm them with numbers. That's pretty much how they roll, and silly stuff. And I think that's pretty much what they're lacking, is because they're pretty much just trying to emulate being like Space Marines, but they're less weak, they have shittier guns, and they can't shoot straight. And I think that's where the kind of problems come down with that race. And if Eldar would actually fucking die, that would be amazing. That would just make this game 10 times better as it is. Because killing them at the moment is nigh on impossible unless you happen to get lucky with a grenade or something or other, or you just have like 10 people trying to shoot one person hopping around. Yeah. But as you can see from that last game, having a decent clan or group or something or other allows you to absolutely dominate anything. And when you're against another clan, it leads to really kind of cool kind of interactions between different teams and stuff like that. And I think it's pretty generic for this kind of genre. It was the same in PlanetSide, and I think this one does it quite well as well. Although, admittedly, I think PlanetSide's still quite ahead in some areas, which I feel like this one could improve upon quite a lot. But this one does have the Warhammer IP, which allows them to do a lot of silly stuff, and I just feel like they're not quite doing it yet. So that's more or less what I have to say about it at the moment. I hope you guys found this helpful, and if not, then just leave a comment below with what you feel like they could have done better, or I could have said better, I don't know. There's probably some stuff I've missed out, and there's probably some stuff I haven't quite kept up on, and if so, sorry. Just trying to offer my thoughts on the matter, because I really hope this game goes a bit further than it is at the moment, because at the moment it's pretty much there, but there's some parts that just, like, for instance, when you don't see a race appearing, there's got to be a reason for it, and I'm sure they're already aware of all this stuff, but I just want to see it happen, and I hope that enough people getting behind it will allow that to happen in the long run. So anyway, that's all I've got to say, and I won't keep rambling anymore. So I've been Kapplah. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Enjoy.